Today I'm absolutely delighted and honored to be in conversation with a legend. She joined the housing finance sector and steered the company HDFC to become a household name that millions in India associated their dream homes with.
I was really one of the first to have joined HDFC, 1978. National Housing Bank came after us. So in the drafting of the National Housing Bank, inputs were taken from us. When we started HDFC, Vilasini, you needed 22 times your annual income to buy a house. I think what ICICI and the other competition did to us was shake us out of our, sort of a thing that, people come to us, we don't go out. Yeah.
So what was it in 1977-78 for women to be working?
You need to be comfortable with numbers. You can't be in a financial services company and say, I don't like numbers. The day you wake up in the morning and you say, I don't want to go into this office, start looking for a job.
Who is one of your first bosses that you remember?
Not a good memory.
What's your advice for women aspirants across sectors? Hi, welcome to the We Women Project. Today I'm absolutely delighted and honored to be in conversation with a legend who has been repeatedly recognized as one of the most powerful women in business. She joined the housing finance sector when housing finance was in its infancy in India, and over the next 4 decades steered the company HDFC to become a household name that millions in India associated their dream homes with. Such a privilege, such an honor to have you and be in conversation with you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Vilasini. For me too. I'm so happy to be here. We just, were talking about what you've been doing. I think it's a great initiative and I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm very excited for this conversation. And as we dive in, I think my first question to you is, when did you join HDFC?
Oh my God, I'm going to, let you know how old I am. No, well, I was really one of the first to have joined HDFC, 1978.
Wow.
HDFC was set up in 1977 and so I joined them in 1978, June. And it was, nobody knew what HDFC was when I went home and I told my father this company and he said, what? And reaction of most people at that time used to be, I don't think it's going to last long.
Wow.
So that is how we started.
Yeah. So what prompted you to join financial services? Like, who guided you? Who mentored you?
Very honestly, Vilasini, I really didn't think of financial services or not. I was looking for a job, period. Okay. So I had interviewed in a few places and then I interviewed at one of these places where HT Parikh was also the chair. And then they said, this company is going to come up. Would you like to join them? And I went through a couple of interviews, was quite intrigued by what they were going to be doing. And I joined them. And, that is how it was.
Wow.
So I think it was also some of the middle class safety thing that you had. A bird in hand is worth 2 in a bush. So I didn't go for the second interview of the same company. The rest is history.
Fabulous. So which city was this?
This is Mumbai.
This was in Mumbai. So you joined
HDFC started in Mumbai.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So much of your life till that point was in Bombay.
So yes, my father used to work for the railways and I had moved from Delhi a few years ago. I was actually a fully Delhiite. I loved Delhi. And I moved and I went and got my law degree there. And so at that time I was in Bombay and we were going to be staying there for some time. And Bombay in any case was the place to look for jobs, the place where it was safer for women as it is today. And so that was the reason. And honestly, I was looking for a job where I could, use some of my skills which at that time, according to me, I had done an MA in economics and I'd done law. So it was, trying to use those. I got into HDFC because of law, but very soon moved into credit.
Oh, so you got in because of law
Yes,
and so in the disbursement process. Or one of that.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Fabulous. So what was it in 1977, 78 for women to be working? Like,
So it had, it was just starting. And honestly, women were working. Women were teachers. Women were college teachers. Of course, women were nurses and doctors. But in the corporate world, it was a phenomena which was just starting. People, of course, you still had secretaries, etc. But in management, it was a phenomena which had just started. I wouldn't say that we were the ones who started it. I think maybe a generation of women 5 or 7 years earlier were the ones who were the first who came in. But yes, it was. There were fewer jobs also to begin with. There weren't so many of these IT companies. There weren't so many other sectors that had come up. It was very restricted to a few corporates, a few. So it was not easy. It was not easy even getting a job to begin with, because you also had to deal with the old mindset of women are going to leave after 3 years, that was a major,
I can well imagine. So you all are the change makers
to that extent. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that for us, for all of us. What is your memory of, possibly the geopolitical setup or the economy from that?
So very honestly, at that point in time, we are now talking about late 70s, 77, 78, India had started to matter. And of course, we had, first the Indira Gandhi regime, and then for some time they were not there. But she came back in the early 80s. So there was a woman at the helm. It was also somewhere around the time where globally you were seeing women, Margaret Thatcher, etc. were there. It was generally a period of economic, as far as we were concerned and the sector we were in, we were very actually apolitical. We really didn't need to be in an economy other than that was growing, because housing was always such a shortage in India. And as far as our product was concerned, it was such a welcome product in the market that people couldn't believe for many years that you can actually walk into a house, into an office, and get a housing loan. People were very skeptical that you wouldn't get back your money. And that is how people's reaction was, that are you crazy? You're going to give money to somebody? And mortgages, actually at that time, creation of a mortgage also wasn't airtight, So I still remember, it's a lovely story, and I think I can quote him because he talked about it in his book also. Narayan Murthy has somewhere said that when he and his wife entered the HDFC offices just to see whether they could get a loan, they were so nervous. And when they walked out, I mean, they were so happy because it had been a very easy and a very comfortable, conversation that they had. So I think that was something that a lot of people couldn't get over. And very soon, by word of mouth, people started realizing that owning a house is not going to be so much of a problem, because there was an entity which could fund some part of it. So it was always, eligibility lending for us. So a lot of people used to come in sort of thinking that, it's all done and they're going to get the full money, and used to go back disappointed for a short period of time, but were back again. So I think it was a revolution in terms of housing. And I think after that, if you see, and for many years, I think for the first 15 years, other than banks which barely gave any housing loans, we were the only game in town.
Absolutely.
And even at that time, if you started seeing house ownership started increasing, Vilasini, when we started, our mortgages to GDP ratio at that time was 3.5. Yeah. Towards the end, even now, it is only 12-13%. 12%, right? Yeah. So I think it was an era of growth. It was very heady growth. And, as you know, a house is such a dear asset that you have, when you help somebody buy that house, they're forever grateful,
Absolutely.
So I think it was a very good place for HDFC to be in after the first few years. Having said that, there was a time which, of course, we didn't know because we were still very, the frontliners and the workers. There was a time where Mr. Parekh talks about it, where we actually had no money for the
next set of
disbursements after 2 months. And where do you go? People were not willing to, lend to you. They were all willing to take your money, but nobody was willing to, bet on you and give you money. That's when the IFC funding came in. And IFC, of course, it was through the Government of India in that sense. And we got the IFC funding, which literally, if we were going like this, made us go up like this. And then,
Which year was this?
This was early 80s.
Early 80s.
Early 80s.
This is when the first IFC line came in.
Okay,
so funding was largely DFIs.
So in the beginning, in fact, till many years, it was funding from banks. There was no National Housing Bank.
Yes.
But then about 18, 20 years into our being, we started a deposit scheme. And we started taking deposits from the public. Because by then, we had made a reputation for ourselves. The government had trust in our management, in our board. We had a very, very eminent board. So we were allowed to take deposits. And also, I must say, the conditions for deposit-taking financial institutions were not as stringent as they are today. And we were one of the first ones where we were allowed to start taking term deposits. So I think that really changed our whole being, because here we had a constant source of funding, maybe small, coming in small bits, but at the same time, a constant force, because a lot of people would take a home loan from us, retire, were very happy with our service, and the trust factor was there, would come and put their retirement benefits with us. Wow. In fact, there were occasions where we had to tell them, don't put everything with us, you must, you must put something elsewhere too. So that really was one of the biggest benefits we had at HDFC, where we could raise deposits. Many of the other housing finance companies which came later, maybe 20 years, 15, 20 years later, were not able to get that benefit. But it was a very hard-earned approval that we got.
Everything that you did, right? Here, I just want to kind of pick your brains. What was your relationship with the government? Like, how did it work? If there was no NHB, there was...
I think for the government also, we were a slightly different institution. You must remember that what happened was that everybody was realizing how important housing is. And there was none other. LIC used to do some very little mortgage lending and which take 10 months. People were realizing that, it is employment generating. We need homes. Housing shortage was huge. At that time, they used to talk about housing shortage being something like 30 million. So I think the government understood why it was, and therefore, and our performance was there. See, one of the things, Vilasini, I think, which really went in our favor, we were not owned by any business house. Actually, we were not owned by anyone other than the public. So we, IFC, ICICI and the Aga Khan put in the equity, the first 5%. The rest of it, we were listed. When we had the IPO, it bombed.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
The underwriters had to come in, right? So that was how it started. So we had no owner. That's what I was trying to say. There was no owner. There was nobody who was going to make money and get away with it. So the government had a lot of trust in what we did. And I think also the product. The product was so important because they could see the shortage. Urbanization had started. So the relationship in the first 15, 20 years in the government was excellent, excellent. I must say, H.D. Parekh, our first chairman, who used to be chairman of ICICI, was well known. We used to have a couple of very other eminent people who joined us from the government and would tell us what is it that we could use in the right way to enhance our existence. And I think we very diligently and very purposefully and very honestly made use of some of those what you now call sanctions and approvals, which all the other housing finance companies also got. 3618, etc., as you know. So I think that is how it was. I think government, there was never any government consultative group or anything that was set up till long, for many, many years, where somebody from HDFC wasn't there, whether it be on infrastructure, whether it be on housing. And thereafter on financial services, on insurance, on asset management.
Every aspect
of
the BFSI, I think.
So they would, look to the management. Absolutely.
Have you participate?
Yeah.
So on one end, there was trust building with, the government and all of that. And very naturally, the way you did business kind of emanated the trust with the customer. So, I also just want to pick your brains on how did you go about this eligibility? Because none of it existed at that point of time, right? Math on LTV.
So very honestly, we did rely a lot on the British system and also on the US, what the US criteria their mortgage lenders used to use. And very honestly, the more you study about it, and because they were ahead of us in this, as you know, the British building societies were the first ones to start. So we, through studying the various systems, we realized to be on the safe side, if 70% of the cost of a house is the equity of an individual, the chances of his defaulting are lesser. So I have to admit that wasn't a number that any of us thought of. It was copied from what was happening. Though having said that, when you go back to their economies still a few years ago, they were doing 100% funding. They were doing 95% funding. But that's how it started, because and we learned a lot from their processes, because in particularly in India, we were basically lending long and borrowing short, right?
Yes.
How do you manage that? It was a stage where it was an age where it was fixed interest rates, both loans and the monies that you raised were fixed interest rates, right? So it was a big learning, and I think we did a good job of learning from both the British and the US systems.
Fabulous. So I chanced upon one of these, the older annual reports, while I would have loved to read more before this podcast. But one of it that said that, the three things that stood out for me in that is, you said there was a straightforwardness in your functioning. You would learn from your mistakes, and there is an honesty in intent. I mean, I'm not quoting the exact words, but something to this effect. And I think it just lasted the test of time basis these three strong
Absolutely.
Principles.
I think one of the things that the first chairman always used to say was, and at that time, remember, we were a monopoly, absolute monopoly. He used to say, when that customer walks into your office, right? Don't think he needs you. You need him more. And I think that is what stayed with us. And the fact that, how, easy are you making it for the customer? Not in terms of, waiving things, but in terms of explaining things to him the first time, in terms of helping them out if there's an issue, in terms of being very honest and straight. Look, this is what you're going to get. Not over-promising, right? It used to take us 2 months to sanction a loan at that time. 2 months.
Okay.
Telling him it's going to take us 2 months, right? Not telling him, don't worry, we'll give it to you faster. So I think that honesty came through. And that was something that the front line was always told. Do not over-promise and under-deliver, right? Under-promise and over-deliver. I think that was a big thing that we used to so literally imbibe in all of us. I hope it's there even today. That if you promise, make sure that you meet your promise, or don't promise, So I think those were some of the little things that I think were different at that stage, because we were a fresh I would say a breath of fresh air,
Mhm.
because everywhere else, you needed to do other things to get money. People sat on your files, the files would move. Here, nothing of that sort was there. You went to one officer and he made sure he held your hand till disbursement. So I think that by word of mouth went out. And, how did we get our customers? It was actually because of that
Mm.
in the beginning.
Mm.
Then, of course, we used to go to companies. We used to work with governments.
Mm.
We did a huge program with the army
Mm.
where we funded, officers who were at the frontier, but we could do the loan in wherever their hometown was, right? Foreign service officers who were posted abroad. There were times when we didn't even know who they were because their names sometimes were not shared. Yet, we had the confidence in the system. We had the confidence in the
Your
people,
own process,
in our process, making sure that, our mortgages were, absolutely airtight. And I think one of the things I have to admit, Vilasini, as a company, we always had great confidence in the people of India, that I really think people don't default for the heck of defaulting. Of course, there are always that small few who are there who actually spoil the market, and all your norms, all your processes are actually then built only for that 0.1%. But having said that, I would say as long as you were careful, as long as you're underwriting, you were not going overboard, by and large, I think people are honest and come and pay you back.
That's beautiful. Because I think, as the affordable housing finance journey also kind of evolved, right? So it was when assessed income and all of that happens, I think the core is the people.
Yes.
So when you start trusting that individual, I think, magic,
absolutely.
magic happens.
And for that, you have to trust your front line. You have to empower your front line. You have to trust your front line to do the right thing. Maybe what I'm saying in this current day where organizations are so large, I'm not sure how easy it is. We were not so large. Even by the time we merged, we were only 4,000 people. So we had the ability to pass on some of, our thoughts and how we started the company. And we were still there for people to hear from us, to understand it, appreciate it. Maybe 50 years later, it might be different. But having, the most important thing, I think, really was trusting the front line and expecting them to do the right thing by themselves, by the customer, by the company.
That's something so beautiful that stood out in the HDFC journey, because, I've visited a couple of branches and I've seen the level of ownership or the level of product knowledge that last mile would carry.
Right.
And I think that kind of just...
And that only comes when they're empowered. Because then you feel, I need to know everything. I don't... I am the boss. I'm the mini MD of that, branch.
Of that place.
Yeah,
and I have to tell it.
Yeah.
So quickly, I'm going to delve into your own, we've spoken about HDFC, your own. I chanced upon an anecdote where you said that you made a dispersal mistake in your... Did that exist? Is that true?
Where did you read it? Oh, so true, As I told you earlier, I joined in the legal department of the HDFC, right? And I had a boss who was not the nicest, old-fashioned. He was an old man also. Came from the age where he couldn't expect a woman to be other than a secretary or somebody who's going to bring in his tea, etc. And so he was a toughie, So it was like his expectation is you're going to do something wrong. And lo and behold, I actually lived up to his expectation.
Okay.
So we did this first disbursement, and we were doing the disbursement, and I think it was actually the first loan of HDFC. It was disbursing. Everything fine, everything. When I was giving the document back, so we always had 2 documents. I gave him back the stamped document, which I had to keep. We had to keep. And I realized that in the evening. The next day, his name was Remedios. I'll never forget his name in my life, Mr. Remedios, okay? I always wanted to go take a picture with him. But running around. And he used to live in the middle of nowhere, which now is not nowhere anymore in Bombay.
Okay.
Now it is part of Bombay, beyond Borivali somewhere. So the next day, people had to go and get the document. And he rightly said, but this is the stamped document. This is my copy. Fortunately, he didn't, he gave it to us and we gave it back to him. So that was my learning. And after that, I checked everything 5 times, I think it was the excitement. It was the first loan.
But it's so beautiful that you were willing to talk about it after all these, after all your achievements, which is why I wanted to bring it up in the podcast as well, that you're just so willing to share it.
I guess that's one of the reasons, because I've done it and been through it, that when, some of my colleagues or my youngsters do make a mistake unwittingly. No, I would never hang them. I would say, done, ho gaya, let's try and find out how we can, get it back together or solve these. So I think maybe that's why I'm like that. Otherwise, I may not have been that, I never make a mistake in life.
You're credited with, building the connector model, with, building HDFC sales, the multiple channels that kind of brought in the growth. Can you explain, how that entire...
that was very difficult, actually. See, we were an organization which believed in doing everything ourselves. We thought we were the best. We were the best at that time. And honestly, there wasn't anyone else. We had to learn everything ourselves. We had to create everything ourselves. Everything was done by us. Even things like if you're going to do a technical visit, what should you be checking, legal, because there was nothing that we could copy from. We were, so with the, when all this was, the root of HDFC, I would say. So when we started, and we used to say, we do the best career appraisal because we meet the person. If I meet the person, I can understand what he is like, and he knows what I'm like, and I can judge the person. So that is what we thought. But then came competition. And competition was all over the place. And we were always very tight on manpower. If we needed 10, maybe one or half was on leave at odd times, we would always be having 9 people. So we were always very short of people, always. Though on hindsight, now I agree with it, that it is so easy to increase manpower, so easy. So as bosses, you really have to be tough, and control it, and don't let it go away. Because, manpower, not that I'm saying, we shouldn't have adequate manpower, but if there's too much manpower, it's also very negative, and everything counterproductive. So we decided that, we are going to get these connectors, and we tied up with a connector in Udaipur. And I went there. I really liked the guy. Very good, very suave, chartered accountant. And the reason we picked up Udaipur, because I don't know, another colleague of mine, Anil Mehta, who set up shelters, used to work for us. And Anil was from Udaipur, and Anil knew the system there. And also, everything was done. And then senior management said, no, we are not going to allow it. We cannot have a third person between us and the customer. We were very upset, very angry. We'd done all this, and but again, if you ask me, whenever there is a setback or anything doesn't go right, there's always something else that happens. There's always a solution you find. And ICICI had already started,
funding housing finance,
doing housing finance, and in a huge manner. I mean, if we used to have 200 people, not 200, I would say 50 people in the market, ICICI would have 200, 300 people in the market, and they had agents. So that's when we decided, well, we are not being allowed to set it up outside. Let's set up our own company, and that's how we set up HDFC sales.
So the connector model never took off.
So the connector model for us never took off.
Okay.
We started sales. Sales was our connector. And we started sales in all the major cities. We sent one of our best persons to go and head it. And the one thing we did right there, very honestly, was that we tried to make sure that, as far as possible, I have to be honest, it didn't happen fully, is that the people there feel as involved, as loyal as an HDFC
Committed
employee.
as an HDFC employee. Yeah.
Ideally, I would have loved to have it as part of our teams, but that this connector model or the agents model, they work on commissions.
Yes.
Our salaries were always very modest. They work on, if I get more loans for you, I want to get paid more, which we couldn't do within the same organization. So we set up sales. Honestly, I'm so happy we did that, because I really dread to think sometimes if we hadn't done that, because we were when we ended, we were at 350 locations.
Yeah.
At the time we did sales, we had something like, I think, 15 branches and a few centers.
My God.
So there was no question we could have fought with ICICI, AB and AMRO. State Bank came much later. AB and AMRO came in there. So I think it was the best decision we took as far as HDFC was concerned. And towards the end, by the time we merged, HDFC sales was getting us close to 52% of our business.
Wow.
Actually, the bank then started also sourcing for us. And if you took out the bank, what the bank sourced, it was nearly 80-90% of the business.
So these were all feet on street who would go and source the loan for HDFC on behalf of HDFC.
On behalf of HDFC, they were not allowed to, they were allowed to give an idea as to what the loan amount they could get, because they were trained by us, and after a lot of training, they were allowed to get into the market. But having said that, they were not allowed to promise an amount. And they had to very clearly tell them that this is what it is, but I don't sanction it, we don't sanction it, it gets sanctioned elsewhere. So that is how we started that.
So this was your brainchild?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, honestly, in all fairness, in HDFC, it was always collective. We were all in it together. And it was more a reaction to not having been allowed to set up what we called a purely DSA.
DSA or a connector model.
Yeah.
So fabulous.
Yeah.
So when did you see the dynamic changing? When did the growth, when did the accolades, all of that start coming?
I would say maybe by the 8th, 9th year of HDFC, we were there. I mean, we were respected. We had benchmarked service. We were supposed to be, an organization that kept its word. So I think till the bank started coming in, we were growing at 35-40% a year, very heady times. And our NPAs were under control most times, I would say. We never had bad NPAs, but we had pockets where they could be very bad at times. And it's when the bank started getting into, and I have to say, by the time we had also become a little laid back. I think what ICICI and the other competition did to us was shake us out of our, sort of a thing that, people come to us, we don't go out. They actually taught us how to get into sales and marketing, because then we had to literally, recondition everything we did. We had to become a new organization. We had to have people thinking in those terms. That this is the market. Why don't I have a market share of it? Where has the market share gone? Earlier, it used to be a little more laid back. Everybody came to you. There was nobody else, right? So there was no question of somebody going elsewhere.
Yeah.
Even if koi bichara kahin aur pahunch jata, they wouldn't get the money for 6 months. So being a pure monopoly, it was,
it was learning to do the business again 20 years later.
Absolutely learning to do the business again, learning to, fight in the market, spending more money on advertising. We used to have hardly any advertising. It's only then, even towards the end, our advertising budgets were minuscule compared to others. But that is when starting advertising. So it was a new HDFC, I think, post that. And I must say, considering we were a very lean team, we've been always a very lean team, the people really came up, they
The
really,
nimbleness.
the nimbleness, because we weren't too many, I think, that's
Yeah.
also one of the reasons. And also, as I said, I kept saying, that feeling of ownership was there. So with the result that I must say, right through the branches, right through that time, maybe we didn't have so many, we just had about 20 odd branches. They all really proved themselves. So I think it was a wonderful time, actually.
Yeah.
Now I can say so. Maybe that time
sounds
I can
wonderful. So day-to-day stresses at that time?
Yes, I mean the stresses of the type that why has somebody gone somewhere else? Why is this developer tied up with XYZ? He used to always come to us only, and then you have to say, buddy, that doesn't work anymore. I mean, he has to also make sure that he is so this is what happened, so it was nice, but it was always a very healthy stress. The stress, one of the things, Vilasini, I think we always actually followed was that profitability was more important for us. Top line was, profitability was, and our collections was very important, So I never remember, either on me when I was young and nobody, or me passing it on to my branch heads, where that if you didn't do this business, you're dead. There was nothing like that, right?
Yeah, that's a huge cultural thing.
It's a huge cultural thing. Maybe in today's world it doesn't work. Maybe it was a different world, but there was no such pressure that business at any cost. That was, not even implied. Not even implied. If one didn't do well and another was doing well, the thing was, listen, Baroda, you're doing so much better. Ahmedabad is not doing well. Come on, you guys push more. Make up for them. It was very collaborative. I think that was what it was.
Difficult to do that in the current times, though.
Yeah. I have to admit, today it's difficult. Today,
or maybe I think there's something that exists there, learning that exists there.
I think, very honestly, it has been made difficult also in some ways, because in most of the companies, a lot of your reward system is totally linked to a performance, right? You can't always perform, but that doesn't mean that you're in the boondocks, right? So I think that pushes people to do things that maybe at times not be good for the organization. I think that is a thing which is, I'm seeing, Vilasini, in most companies. Companies are getting larger. They have targets to meet. There is shareholder pressure, owner pressure, or whatever. So it's a push. I think that is something is not. I think still companies can not necessarily do that.
Go that path.
You don't have to go that path. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, some of these decisions that you take, maybe because you're pushing people. And people are afraid of their jobs. I think that is the most important issue. As long as a person is comfortable, that as long as I'm working well, I'm doing my bit, I'm not going to lose my job. I think that is the difference today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. We spoke about customer centricity. I think, if we speak about 3 pillars that you grew on, customer centricity, we spoke about the funding. On the operational efficiency, when you say you worked with 9 people when you needed 10, or, that's the way you built, do you have a flavor that you want to share?
So I think, yes, we were the first few to start using technology. I would give you an example of our deposits, which was completely unheard of. One of the reasons when, we were able to raise deposits as against, people putting money in bank deposits, was that people were so confident that if I needed the money tomorrow, I can go to the HDFC branch with my certificate and actually walk out with a check. I think, so these were small things we did. So very soon, our deposits, we used a lot of technology, was seamless. Even in terms of our, loans, etc., when somebody had to come and prepay a loan, or somebody had to change an installment, we could do that because we had started investing in technology before it became fashionable. It was more a better use of when we started using computers. Okay, now we have a computer, so why can't you do this? So at every stage, the customer was, how can you make it easier for the customer? If he comes in for something, can he walk out with a solution? So I think those were the things that were there. So to answer your question, I think the right use of technology at the right time, and I'm not now talking about this fancy, very high, this is just simple everyday technology using
process flows,
exactly, mapping
ASTPs,
things, how are you going to do, measuring turnaround times. See, it was not easy to measure turnaround times if you had 20 branches. What's happening in Baroda? Technology helped you do that. If the turnaround time was lower in any particular branch, why was it lower? Was there an issue? Tackling those issues. So I'm saying,
the
handling
basics,
it,
the ground level basics.
That is what actually we use technology very well for.
Understand.
I think that was the difference between when I say it was more like using a tool to have you make sure that you're getting more efficient.
Great. So the bank started in 1993? 94. And then, in 98, 99, the insurance and
2000,
funds,
they were the first
came into being. So what was the vision behind all of this, to diversify?
So, over time, as you know, insurance was nationalized. You couldn't have private sector insurance companies. So then there was a time when life insurance decided to get into housing. So I remember that's the time Mr. Parekh said, well, if an insurance company can do housing, why can't a housing company do insurance, right?
Oh.
And if you see the synergies between it, housing needs long-term funds, insurance generates long-term funds, right? So, of course, there are conditions under which they can invest in but still there were synergies between the two. Particularly, in case of somebody dying early, if there's an insurance that he's bought, his loan gets covered. So there were all these things that we could see that there was a need also. Second thing, what happened was that as it was basically sectors opening up. By the time we had made a reputation for ourselves, our credibility was there. Even globally, our credibility was there. So, there were so many situations, Vilasini, where these fellows who wanted to come and do business in India, their first port of call was HDFC. Not for anything else, but because they'd heard good things about this entity which does things the right way. So, a lovely story Mr. Parekh shares very often is the GE guy came to meet him and met him for breakfast and told him, I want to buy HDFC. So he said, HDFC is not for sale, but we can think of doing something together. So we set up a consumer finance company, GE 50%, and we were 50%. Then later on, we got out. So many, when banking, licenses were given out, privatized, private banking was allowed. So we had people coming in and saying, why don't you tie up with us? That happened right through. Even people like Walmart came to us. Of course, they came to us maybe, A, for the name, B, for the database. One didn't realize what sort of a database you had till about 15 years ago. My God, that you're sitting on a gold mine, right? Which is now the only thing people work on today is database, whether it is this lending, that lending, right?
Yes.
And here we were sitting on this fabulous database of people having paid you for years and years. At that time, people didn't prepay that often because there was no other banks to refinance. So if you took a loan from HDFC, unless you got a windfall from somewhere else, or people used to slowly come and pay every Diwali some amount back. But nobody came and just gave the whole loan back to you because our customers were middle class customers.
And there was no money.
There was no money,
at
actually.
That point of time.
So we didn't have, so many. But so we had this fabulous data that we used to be sitting on, and now you realize why everybody was coming and talking to you. So even Walmart had come, and so it was, and I hope it continues to be, because the bank is absolutely, I think in our shoes, doing very well. The I think what we created for the group, eventually, and I think it's happening in some of the other subsidiaries also, is that people come to you first if they want to tie up with something, because they trust you.
It's amazing. It's just, the vision. I think what astounds me is, one, the vision, and using up every opportunity, like, turning it around. So where did that, I don't know if I should call it risk-taking ability or the vision, where did that stem from?
So I think it was, very honestly, if you look at it, it happened slowly. One of the first things that we set up was this consumer finance company. I think that was much before the bank or any of the others came in. We then had foreigners buying our equity in a big way. And there was a time when Infosys and we were the most I would say, foreign-owned entities in India.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of learning from them. I must say, you are shareholders, because there was this constant meeting with them, constant dialogue with them, our teams going and meeting them, they coming and meeting us. One became quite global. You knew what was happening where, and all these things. If you go look at any of the other financial, larger successful financial systems, you see these things go hand in hand.
Yes.
Right? So I think it was a lot of learning from there, and it was a good board. It was, and I think Mr. Parekh, Mr. Satwalekar, later on Keki, me, I think all of us who were there at that time had the risk-taking ability, because in the confidence that we'd created something, and we were so certain that in anything that we do, we will be involved. So in all the group companies that we had, our people were on the board, between 3-4 of us. The people we hired were people who went from us. Asset management was headed by one of our colleagues. The life insurance was headed by our then MD. So we had the confidence
that you could build.
If we have good partners and our people are there, that we will be able to build good, honest organizations who will be like us, customer-centric, like us, very, I would say corporate governance being one of the biggest mantras at any of our companies. I think that is something that we were so confident of. I think the first person who came in from outside was Mr. Puri, who came to head the bank. Till then, it was
all of you,
our people, one of us, one of the teams going and heading it. And so it was, I think all these things mattered. The confidence in what we'd done, confidence of the people who were coming to you, confidence in the market and our ability, because of our standing, our reputation, to be able to do it.
Great, absolutely wonderful.
And of course, having said that, of course, let me not say they weren't the mathematical models and all the things which were worked out by people. But the bigger issue was to do it, how to do it.
I always believe that the business opportunity exists. It is our willingness to go ahead and, latch onto it and find the right kind of way to do it. And which I think you both excelled on both of it.
Yes, so true. And also, the confidence of people. Like when we IPO'd any of our companies, the shareholders were a great strength. And because I think the shareholders had not seen a bad year with us, and they had great confidence in us, right? And one of the things that we were always willing to do was share our success with others. Dividend was there, but when the bank started, gave all the bank shareholders equity with life, so I think that was also something that was appreciated. So I think the ecosystem was, government was trusting you, partners were trusting you. You had
and you
people,
did the right thing.
Yeah,
I think at the core you did
correct.
the right
that
thing.
Is the
you
most, and that is why
customer.
they trusted you.
Yeah,
that's what they trusted you for.
Yeah. Before I move out of this topic, actually, they, apart from the organizations and subsidiaries themselves, there were a lot of collaborations. You all, contributed to create the bureau. You contributed to create, something like the Property Mart. We spoke about the first co-lending transactions.
Yeah.
Many of this that was so forward-thinking as well.
So, Vilasini, I'll share a thing with you. We know the National Housing Bank came after us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And at the ministry, because by then we were already there. And so in the drafting of the National Housing Bank, inputs were taken from us. But that's true. Credit rating, there we had equity. We don't have it anymore. HDFC had equity. We don't have it anymore. But yes, we were the first to set up.
So holistic.
Yeah. Again, because it was everything that was involving us either for using in our business or helping in our business, or where there were synergies, like I said, for insurance for that matter. Property Mart, or we set up two other entities later on. One was HDFC Red, which was real estate and development, which was an absolute online model where you could,
Compare
take builders and compare. It was, I think, just 10 years before our
the
time.
magic bricks.
Much before,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then the other one was where we had a brokering model, HDFC Reality, where he had something like 7,000 brokers. But I think the mistake we made really was that IT companies, as we are seeing more and more now, and all these fintechs, you need to invest in the beginning. You need to invest in getting data. You need to invest in getting your models right, your technology right. There's a lot of spend on technology. There's a lot of expense. The upfront expense for running a technology company is much more, and it's only later on that it starts paying you back. I think we didn't get that model right in our heads. And we were too much in a hurry to see the results, and the results were not coming. So I think those were some of the issues that went wrong. But otherwise, even when you're looking at mortgage insurance, we were the ones when we started talking about mortgage insurance, whether we could set up a company. It started with us. And it started with, again, for the sector. There was a time we used to say to ourselves and to our then bosses, why are you doing these things for the sector? Because they'll be worse for us. You're encouraging competition.
I can imagine that conversation.
I remember we put money in Canfin Homes, and we put money in State Bank had a small housing finance company in the East. And I said, why the hell would we do this? Because we want everybody to come to us. And then I think the answer was really that, you can't really be everywhere. And if you're going to be part of a system where everybody else does things right, your system will thrive. You will grow with the system. So it's best to get competition, allow competition to come in, but in the right manner. So they don't go, they learn from you. You benchmark certain things, you've invented certain things. Let them use it. Because at the end of the day, if the sector goes, you go with it.
Yeah.
I think, it took me years to understand this and appreciate it. And that is really, what happened.
That's so true. Yeah, when the sector goes, you go with it.
Absolutely.
It's just so true.
Really.
Yeah. Phenomenal. I'm just going to, kind of talk about 2-3 things here. One is HDFC did construction finance something really, really well. I think as a sector, real estate is not particularly favored by BFSI anymore in a large. And while it is very important, because unless there's money flowing in, the development's not going to happen.
Yes, absolutely.
So, how do you look at it?
So you said that. I mean, we understood that if there's no money flowing in, who's going to build? Government was not building. Right? A few DDA houses there, housing board houses elsewhere. And the developers were not getting the funding. Banks were not allowed to lend to. They were allowed much later for housing. So we realized that this is a sector that we need to get into, but very cautiously. So I think 2-3 things we did here. I'll tell you very honest. There was no RERA then. There was nothing to, safeguard
Benchmark.
us. There was no credit rating. And what credit rating? The builders were not listed. They were not showing anything. Every project was a separate project. So I think what we decided was that we would pick up the top few developers and work with them closely and make sure that, we used to say, what is the secret of real estate? We used to say location, 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 the three things. If the location is good, it's going to sell. So again, going back to the location. But I think the most important thing we used to see was the promoter. What was the background of the promoter? What was his antecedents? Was there anything not okay with him? Did they have another business that could be backed with? And we went very small. The first few loans, you laugh at some of the builders and you say how huge they are today, were 10 lakhs. And so we said, it's trying you out. So you remember one thing, they had bought the land. The land was already with them. So, and we would never give them all upfront or any of these things were not there. It was pure, what you call textbook lending. If the project goes up, you give the money. If the project doesn't go up, don't give the money. Of course, there are other repercussions to that. But the fact is, at least your money cannot be siphoned into something else. So I think we realized that without builders, we are not going to be able to do what we want to do. And even though we used to fund them, we never made it mandatory that all your business should come to us. Because very honestly, that's a double whammy. I've already even a construction finance. I also do the retail loans. They want to go elsewhere, let them go elsewhere. Our money comes back, right? So it was a very cautious attempt, and even till the end, very end, of course we had our bad loans. Of course we had our wrong decisions. Every company.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't be in this
concern.
business and if you don't, make some mistakes. But having said that, we had to make sure that every developer that we looked at was really looked at very carefully. We used to check. That time we used to check their bank accounts. We used to check any reports, anything negative. We used to make sure they'll never do that now, take their personal guarantee. We used to take their house, Vilasini. And some of the builders used to be very smart and they would give us a house. Then we started saying, no, we want to have the house where your children and wife sleep. Not even you, your children and wife sleep, So that's how we started. And then slowly, I think very soon they realized that we were an ally. We were a partner. We were not just a lender. We were there for them if they behaved well. And it's funny, even now when somebody will tell me, about a certain developer and they'll say, no, not HDFC, all these developers look at you differently. They won't default to you, but they may default to us, Which
that's the reputation you carried.
It is because we were there at the first instance to be with them, put our faith in them, put our trust in them, and started small. I have to say it again. It wasn't that we started writing 100 crore checks. We used to start small, then larger, then more, So it was a very calibrated approach. And eventually, I think it paid off.
Yeah. And nobody has been able to replicate it, I would think, today in the market.
Yeah, I guess one of the reasons also somewhere is that there are too many lenders running after a developer. And maybe in the recent past, there was some little. So they have such a choice. So they actually can call the shots, who they want to borrow from, which is not now. I have to say what I'm talking about is maybe pre-COVID when, property prices were going up. Builders were able to raise money with nothing actually.
Yes.
I mean, they used to announce a project and they could get money. So I think that's the reason where that desire to give out money, not making sure that your fundamentals are there.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue.
So actually my next question is, did the team, sleep at all in this period?
Oh, yes. We slept very well.
Okay.
I'll tell you one of the reasons was that Of course, there were times when, like, as I told you, when the competition was very high, one used to lose some sleep. Not for anything else, because we first didn't know how to handle it. We were not fighters, but we still didn't lose that type of sleep, right? Where you are.
No, not the bad type of losing of
Yeah.
sleep, but just overwork, because
Oh,
there was
yes.
so
We used
much
to-
that
we
was
used to-
happening.
We were supposed to be a 5-day company. I think from the time I started, looking at it, we were a 6-day company.
Okay.
And there were quarter ends where, if it happened to be a 30th, 31st, we would be working through. I won't call myself a workaholic, but I did not shy away from being a workaholic and making my teams work. So it was there.
It requires that kind of commitment, I would think.
Yeah,
right?
and no one was let off. It wasn't that one department says that, I have nothing to do and I'm not disbursing. Nobody's, we're in it together. When you need us, we'll be there. And actually, we were there. We used to have collections. During collections, practically the whole branch would come in and help. So it was that sort of sleeplessness. Of course, there was a time where my branch, which was Delhi, had the worst NPS. And the NPS at that time, I'm even ashamed to tell you how many. I'll tell you later on. Huh?
Okay.
And so, it took us long, and because I put some of our best people on it, we managed to get it down. And, eventually we were one of the North. Then I was not looking at them. I had gone up I would say, in life. But the North turned out to be, towards the end, one of the best numbers that we used to have. But, so it was related to situations like that. But I didn't lose sleep. What will happen to me? It was, oh my God, how can this happen to the branch?
Yeah.
Oh my God, how can somebody say this to us? We have to get it down. So it was a huge team effort. And I think that's what we conveyed to each other. And everybody was willing to
And
put
there's
that
nothing
extra.
that cannot be resolved.
Absolutely. Nothing cannot be resolved. Yes, there could be, in this particular example I'm telling you, there could be a few cases. But I think even there, going, that time, we had no CIBIL records. We had no deduction at source. We had nothing. You just were depending on the goodwill of the person and the threat, which, had he known at that time, it wasn't that great, because we did not have SARFAESI. We did not have any of those things. Was that he may lose his house 5 years later. It was again handling a person, explaining to them, working with them. So yes, those were some tense times. But otherwise, yes, there were times when, funding, was a bit of a challenge. More than anything else, Vilasini, the right cost of funding. Because as you know, housing loans are not inelastic. You just can't keep increasing the rate.
Yes.
Beyond a certain rate, affordability gets hurt. So trying to find the best rate. I'm sure our treasurer most probably used to have major problems, because we had some small foreign exchange funding, and so all those things, they were more operational. They were you could find a solution, and none of them were where we had a major issue. There's a crash somewhere or nothing like that.
But just very busy.
Maybe we were just lucky.
You were talking about treasury and interest rates and the spreads being thin. So current interest rate cycles that we're having currently, and how it's coming down, banks are hardly left with any margin on the housing finance space. So how do you look at some of these macros?
So, well, when we were in the business in the beginning, I'm saying, we could set interest rates, because as I said, we were the monopoly, and we could. The good thing was that even at our best, our spreads were never more than 2.2. And if the spreads did become much higher, Mr. Parekh used to say, drop interest rates. Why are you charging so high? Why don't you drop interest rates? So our philosophy was volumes, good business will give you enough, to work with. We were not there that we were looking for 4% and 5%, or even with developers, our rates were very modest in some ways, right? Very competitive. We were, in the beginning, we were the only ones, but we did not charge, usurious rates of interest. The rates of interest, definitely the developer book, I have to admit, did do a bit of
correction.
No, not correction. What's the word to use? Funded our individual book. You know, the spreads were higher there, individual spreads were lower. So when you're looking at ROEs and how things were working, I think the most important thing, Vilasini, which is not understood about HDFC, the investors understood that we were the lowest cost producer. I don't think there is anyone with the sort of cost income ratios that we had, even today, that we could, produce what we produced. I think that was the big thing. Any company that has to work today, I think you have to have a keen eye on costs. And in the beginning, when we weren't getting people, I used to really get upset with the Bombay management. Now I really appreciate what it was all about. And I think at the end of the day, even when you say day-to-day costs, running costs, travel costs, right? I have some lovely stories to share with you where, I still remember going to Nagpur. And this must have been maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 15 to 20 years. And this head of deposits, woman, not very young, maybe in her mid-50s, coming back very in the evening, and she's saying, oh, I'm coming from, what was the city nearby, which is about 3 hours by bus. I'm just coming. I'll tell you the place. And I'm just coming back from there. And I said, at this time, why? Oh, ma'am, I took the bus. I took the state transport bus. I asked him, why did you take the state transport bus? Why didn't you take a car? No, ma'am, one deposit I had to go for. And I thought I'll go, car leke jayenge, kya karenge? And I said, how much was the deposit? He says, 1 crore. And I said, wow, this was an HDFC loyalty, you're talking about. So that whole thing of, making sure you're using the company's, equipment or whatever, like you would use your own. I think that went a long way. So we were paper costs. We used to keep a keen eye on wastage of paper. This before ESG and things like that. It was more self-driven. And so I think that those things really helped in keeping it where it was. And NPAs were good, right? I mean, if we had NPAs of 3 to 4%, our total cost structure, everything would have gone. The spreads would have gone, right? So you would rarely see an HDFC team going to a 5-star hotel. You would go to the best non-5-star places. It just became a culture. How? I don't know. I think that's how we did it. Maybe most of us started doing it like that. And that's how it, went down. And that was a major thing about cost consciousness, which went really down to the front line. It's not easy today.
And it starts right at the top.
Everything, Vilasini, anything you do, please believe me, it starts right at the top. What sort of holidays you take, what sort of time off you take, how do you carry yourself in terms of your dresses? Are you wearing, fancy watches and clothes? What sort of a car you drive? It is a situation where it comes from the top down. I'm not saying being frugal is really a virtue, but being cost conscious is a virtue. Particularly when you are, responsible for shareholder money and you have to give returns. Right?
Absolutely. So moving on to some of the macros, given where India is today, how GDP is moving. So where do you see housing finance, housing sector move, which segments?
So, Vilasini, very honestly, I think this is one of the few products anywhere in the world which is very apolitical. Whether it is one government or the other, housing will always be important for us. Very few products don't get people getting angry about the product, Here, it's a very benign product. If anything, everybody has a soft corner for this product. The shortage continues to be high. The other day I was at one of our bank meetings and they were now talking about a figure of, some 20 odd million. I think even in that, and you come from the same sector, these are what, the government is saying is the shortage. The shortage is actually much more because that one person who has that one room house, we are counting it as housed. Right? So the shortage will continue for us. Urbanization, as we all can see, I wish we could stem the urbanization and have more urban centers, but that's not really happening. The government is trying, but urbanization is, growing. Everybody needs a house. Costs have gone up. So therefore, for housing finance companies, there'll always be a market because right from the beginning, when we started HDFC, Vilasini, you needed 22 times your annual income to buy a house.
22 times.
Towards the end, I'm talking about average middle income.
Yeah, I get it.
And towards the end, it was somewhere like 4.5 times, 5 times. I'm talking about average. I'm not talking about 10 crore homes and all. Right? So that is how the affordability over years changed. Having said that, that affordability even today is met with at least 60-50% funding. See, in the past, families used to help a lot. I'm sure still parents help, but the earlier, way of families helping, uncle bhi paisa diya, brother, sister also used to give, you're buying a house. That is not happening. Families have become more insular. So as far as this sector is concerned, no way. I mean, according to me, 5-10 years, this sector is only going to grow. What part of it? I think even today, when you look at the shortage of housing in India, it's mainly in the low income segment and of course the lowest income segment, but low income and mid income segment. I think the rich find their way to find their funding. So that segment is close to, I would say, place it in 95% of our housing shortage. And there you will need, as I said earlier, you'll need funding, you'll need developers who turn around homes in a very fast manner, not take 4 years where interest costs add up. You need more efficient planning of cities, of projects, so that they're more, you're able to get your schools and your housing and your shopping in one area, because distances are becoming so long. So I think it's a segment which is going. It's at least in India, I would say. Maybe not in Norway, where 78% GDP mortgages to GDP. In India, for the next few years, and in the middle to low income, I would say the space. Low income, low income, middle income. And of course, there is a whole set of people who today are maybe even lower than low income, where they cannot afford a loan. See, affording a loan, affording the EMI, I think there you need a lot more government intervention, more rental housing, which can start as rental housing, can eventually change into ownership, which was done a big way in China, in Singapore, etc. First rental, you pay enough, and then you are able to own it. So I think that segment, I would say, is still very, very vulnerable. But I think the low income segment, there are so many companies that exist today who are willing to lend. And, it's a good space to be in.
So, two things here. One was, we'll finish urbanization. You spoke about urbanization. But while there's urbanization, there's also an infrastructure crisis in many of these cities.
So true.
So that kind of indirectly implicates your valuations, your resaleability of these proproperties, etc.
Absolutely.
So, what are your views around that?
So I think here in, particularly water, I think water has become the biggest problem, and it's depleting so fast. So again, roads, I still think, in the last few years, you've seen a lot more happening, but most of the roads that you're seeing are more roads connecting cities and towns and the circular roads, not, the inside roads that are there. So I think eventually that comes back to government. Government has to play a role. And now you're seeing a lot of these InvITs coming in, which are, in road InvITs, etc. But again, having said that, they are, the connectivity between cities has become much better.
Yeah.
Which means actually more people will
can come in, but once you're in the.
So I think the trick for the thing is to, at the location where people are, how to move offices there, how to, get education institutions there. So it's not that the government has not been trying. They've been trying it in a big way. Even, internationally, there aren't that many examples which have done very well. Malaysia tried something where they had a new capital totally. They forced people to go there. Maybe China can do it because, they'll force people to go. In India, fortunately, we are a democracy. And so that can't happen. But you're so right. This is going to be a major problem. Power to some situation, to some extent, has been solved with the various options people have. But I think water and your sewage, etc., utilities is still quite a challenge.
I'm going to take the liberty to ask you this, that, when housing finance is increasing, when, the market is still there, we sense a vacuum with, the Grove being sold off or the HDFC merger that's happened. In fact, personally, for me, when Grove was sold off, it gave a little bit of a pang because such a respected organization that we looked up to so much. So, what are your views to us as an industry?
So, I quite understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, I think we've left, as you say, the Maidan open for others to come in, right? Though, having said that, see, HDFC was very large and we were all over the place. I think it's a great time for at least regional, companies to come and hone their skills, their people. And even today, I see a change actually, very honestly, in the last 6 months. But most banks and housing, even though it was a product with them for many years, now I'm not talking about HDFC Bank, please. This is not HDFC Bank I'm talking about. But it was a product that was lying there, Nobody pushed it. If you went into a state bank housing thing, he gave you a housing loan, which was fine. But of late, I think they're all realizing that when you get a housing customer, he's a very sticky customer.
Yeah.
And he then moves his accounts to you. And that thing has come in. So I think the banks are slowly but reluctantly going to, up their ante, as one would say. Even though what you just said, the spreads are not as much, but, the customer comes to the door. So it is not going to be easy because what we had, very honestly, towards the end was we had scale.
Yeah.
We had lenders who believed in us. We were able to raise funds we were AAA rated, right?
Yes.
Which the younger, new ones are not going to be. We could raise our own bonds. We could, we could call the shots in terms of our funding, and the new ones may have problems doing that. But I think the other thing also is that you will have to, again, imbibe all the things we continue to imbibe. Was keeping a keen eye on costs, keeping a keen eye on people, keeping a keen eye on where, you are seeing slippages, also, when you're using agents, what sort of business they're doing, keeping your NPS down. I think that is the biggest thing. If 99% of your people are paying in time, all your numbers are stacking up, right? That's some of the things that you have to do. But having said that, there is that market where a small housing finance company on the way to growth can go and make a difference by making that person feel wanted, making that person, anybody who walks into a bank does not get the feeling that HDFC could give them in the beginning, or even much towards the end also. And that is a trick that you people should all imbibe, the housing finance companies, where when he comes in, you give him such good service, straight advice, honest advice, and stick to it. and do the loan fast.
Mm. Mm.
You know, that is most important. My understanding is the banks take much longer.
Mm.
And for most people, they need the money at a particular point in time.
Yes.
If you give it to them, they're happy to pay that, 1% higher or so, more than banks.
Yes.
So it's again how you treat your customer.
Comes down to that.
Yeah.
So, are you an advocate for consolidation? There are so many small players in the market and so many.
So it all depends on what business you're in. But certainly consolidation helps you in many ways, when you're looking at expanding. One of the reasons when we sold Grew, really also one of the things was because we thought the synergies between these two companies were so good. One was ruling the West, the other was so strong in the East, right? One was an affordable housing company, and Bandhan was known for their microfinance.
Yeah.
So it was like a match made in heaven. It would have happened. So that is the reason why everybody, like you said, you felt very bad. We used to also at that time, Vilasini, what happened? We wanted to get into the sector also. So I said, we can't have Grew and HDFC
doing the same,
fighting for the same loan. I mean, it was so much our baby.
Yes.
In fact, my instructions to them in many cities were, if Grew's there, don't go there. It's not right on Grew and not right even otherwise. We are one group. So very often they could only do, mainly Gujarat, right? They were only doing the larger cities of Baroda, the third and the fourth cities were with Grew. And Gra. And then they wanted to go in there. I used to say, no, you can't go in there. Or ask Sudhin, If Sudhin says yes, So we realized that over time, we need to get into that segment. And we actually had a product in the last 10 years where we were actually giving loans to that segment at a higher rate.
Yeah, Reach and the Star.
HDFC Star started. And HDFC Reach was it was renamed to HDFC Reach. So that's one of the reasons we did it, and we really thought that Bandhan and Grew, because Bandhan didn't have anything like that, and they had this ready-made company coming in. Yeah, but how things are.
Yeah.
Markets changed, COVID happened, whole life changed because of that.
True. So we live in an environment today, ma'am, where there's a lot more global hostility, if I can use that word. So how do you see it for India right now, versus especially from a funding standpoint, from all that's happening in the globe? And
the last few months, of course, has been much more with our tariffs being raised to 50%. But again, I think India has to take it in its stride, because at the end of the day, we are the second largest economy. People will come to us eventually. There may be some stopping now. Our IT fellows are the best in the world. Chinese are very good also. I'm not saying that, but the English language benefit that we have, the pool of talent that we have. So now what are you seeing? The GCCs are going to do much better here. So instead of getting a job there, you will get a job here. So I'm very, very positive on India. I'm very positive on what's happening around us. Income levels have gone up. You're seeing more compliances. I'm comparing. It's not still
absolutely
what is desirable. On taxes, on people collecting tax. GST has made a difference. I think what is going to be the most challenging for us is going to be our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is going to be challenging, not only because growth also has its problems. When you're growing, you need more electricity. You have all these IT systems. For that, you can't do it if you don't have electricity. So everything gets so linked up.
I
think that's where it is.
So it'll propel a different kind of
I personally think that, India, we will still be a developing economy. I don't agree with pundits that we are going to be the second largest, third largest in the next few years. Over time, yes, but we will be and are already a force to reckon with. An economy that I think the world cannot afford to ignore.
And the demographics, etc., play to our advantage.
Demographics play to advantage to some extent, at least our language in most cities.
Yeah.
And that's one of the only problem I have is when they talk about, the local language. You must have the local language, but why at the cost of English?
I know.
Have both,
I know,
right?
I know.
All of us, the people understands, the politicians included, how it has really helped us. So
Yes.
what if it was Angrezon ki language?
Yeah.
It is a language which you communicate, and at the end of the day, it's all about communication.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm very positive.
What are some of the trends you're looking at today?
I see in the youth, current people generation, a lot of impatience, impatience to make it big. That whole thing of understanding something, doing it right, earning your spurs, and reaching that level. A little bit of quick, money, of course, and also quick fixes, and also quick returns in terms of all the benefits that are there. But I think that's also in some ways good, because that will propel them to do more.
Yeah. But impatience, yes. I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
exactly where you come from, and from doing it the right way perspective. So, okay, let's do a quick rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bother you with a rapid
Okay.
fire right now.
Oh my.
So-
All right, let's go.
So the first thing is, who is one of your first bosses that you remember?
Not a good memory.
We spoke about it. Okay,
Yes.
I'll let it pass. What would your colleagues call you or term you in your 20s? In your 20s, 30s, how would they?
Collaborative and fun.
Collaborative and fun. Okay, interesting. What do you think is one of an underrated skill in financial services, to grow in financial services, personally as well as for a corporate?
See, personally, I would say you need to be comfortable with numbers. You can't be in a financial services company and say, I don't like numbers. You need to be able to at least understand, how simple things work. What is a P&L? Of course, that most people will understand that, but little more than
I know
what the
you
normal
mean.
person understands.
Yeah.
And on a corporate basis, I think it's changing now. I have to admit it. And I think even family-run companies, we are seeing a big difference there. But I think the importance of good governance and the payback that you get because of good governance. One is good governance because of regulation, and because you don't want the
You don't wanna be
so-called bosses to
pulled
be
down.
after you. But the goodwill, if you're a well-governed company, and when you get that, whether it is domestically, your customers, your stakeholders, internationally, if you're there, I think that is, people really need to understand how important that is. I think it's still a little undervalued in some of the newer entities that you're seeing.
I understand. What's your life mantra in a line?
Okay, never give up, and always have a plan B.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful.
Because even though you're trying never to give up, sometimes things don't work out the way you want. But if you have a plan B, at least then you have the confidence of, still continue.
Going ahead and giving. What's the first app you refer to in the morning? We live in a digital world, so what's the first app?
So this is very boring, and it's very mommy answer. I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren and 2 children-in-law, and both of them actually don't live with us. They live in the US. So during the day they are sleeping. During the night they're awake. So the first thing I look at to see is there a message from either of them?
So lovely.
Yeah.
So lovely. What's your favorite holiday destination with your family, or where do you like to?
Vilasini, when we were growing up as a family, my parents used to live in Delhi, and we used to live with our parents. And I must tell you that my husband and my parents were literally the backbone for whatever I did in life. Husband for encouraging me right through, and my parents being just there. That's why when a lot of women ask this question, I feel very, have to share with them that it wasn't easy if they hadn't been there. But so I think we always went to Bombay because his parents were in Bombay. All the years that the children were growing up, every holiday was Bombay. I must say my children never turned around and said, why Bombay every year? They used to look forward to going to Bombay. So the family holidays didn't really happen, like they happen now.
Yeah.
दूसरी बात विलासिनी पैसे भी नहीं थे.
Absolutely.
We had no money. We couldn't think of going. Now at a drop of a hat, people are going to Bangkok, to Nepal, to Georgia. We couldn't even think of that, But still, having said that, we enjoyed going to Bombay. If you ask me, I was, because Bombay was head office for me. And I used to go there and I used to end up spending more than half the time. So in any case, I loved doing that. So boring answer.
No, very lovely answer. I loved it. What's your comfort food?
My comfort food is my Punjabi food to begin with. You can obviously see that I'm a foodie.
No.
I love all types of food. I love Chinese food. I love all Asian food. I love every food. You don't ask me. I loved South Indian food. I'm convinced that I was a South Indian in my last birth, right? But at the end of the day, when I really am wanting to eat something, my comfort food is a nice paratha with kali dal.
Kali dal, I thought the white butter.
Yeah. But these two are really, it's actually my comfort food.
Lovely. How do you unwind? Or did you have any time to unwind, and how do you unwind?
I had no time to unwind. So it was very good because I didn't realize I was wound up to begin with, right?
Yeah.
In fact, now I have a problem of what to do. So I barely got to see any television. Towards the end of my career, I was traveling a hell of a lot, both domestic and international. HDFC being in Bombay, I was there so often.
So you were headquartered in Delhi, but I used to
live
Bombay.
in Delhi. The company was headquartered in Bombay. I won't do it again. Okay? Because whatever you say, if you're not at the headquarters, you're not really so much in the game as such, But so I used to really have no time for it. And honestly, at HDFC, we were never that wound up, that, oh my God, I need to have my drink and I need to, nothing of the sort. Now I end up actually seeing more television than I ever did in my life.
Yeah, but it's about time you took some time for yourself as well, right?
But Vilasini, I so enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I used to tell my colleagues, the day, actually that this is not original because this was told to me by my boss. The day you wake up in the morning and you say, I don't want to go into this office, start looking for a job. You have to enjoy the place. You're going to be there 8-10 hours every day, 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah, you can't do it 40 years.
You cannot do it. You have to be happy with the people, with what you're doing. So I enjoyed my job.
We'll move a bit, because We Women Project also started with a little bit of a gender lens, while I believe that it's changing rapidly, and the more agnostic the market and the environment is getting. I just wanted to ask you, have you ever faced the gender lens issue at any point of time?
Towards the end, no. In the beginning, when in the growth stage, there used to be some little bit. But having said that, in HDFC, we didn't have so much of a problem as far as salaries were concerned. Maybe the differential came when there were any coveted projects that had to be headed. But there wasn't a differential between a woman's salary and a man's salary doing an exact same job of the exact vintage and the similar backgrounds.
Pay parity, I think we've done pretty well.
Yeah.
I think, as a...
Yeah, and that we had it right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In financial services as such. So in this, in your mid-career years, did you have insecurities? Did you have challenges?
So I used to have some insecurities being based in Delhi, and I couldn't move, though my husband used to tell me, go. Children were growing. That
everything, all the action is happening.
Action is there. People are getting the better jobs, and things. But you know something, as a woman, you have to remember that you have to prioritize in life. If I took the decision of prioritizing my family, my husband, my children, my parents, right, then I can't keep cribbing. I can't have both. So I think all women need to understand that, you know. And also another thing I always say is, no matter who you are, what you are, where you are, 99% of us have two jobs. One at home and, you know, one.
Yes.
And you can't do it all. You are not a superwoman. So something has to give. In my case, I used to say, my family is very important. After that, my kids are, my office is very important. I didn't care about my house. I didn't care about, you know, anything else, about, as you asked, traveling here, doing this, doing that, going. That was not important. So I was very clear what I wanted. And so if I now go around and say that I regretted, it's not right, because that's a choice I made. I made a choice to stay here.
And there can be phases. I mean, looking at your journey, there can be phases when you prioritize something and then you make up.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what happened. Exactly what you're saying. You know, I think I traveled much more than my, you know, peer group or even my bosses towards the end. I was always traveling. Either I was traveling domestically because I was in charge of the business, the lending and the branches. They all reported into me. Or I was traveling internationally sometimes, you know, with the investor conferences, investor relations, you know, and then the boards were also there. I was always traveling full time. So I think that was a positive in me, because I love travel. I'm a railwayman's daughter. I grew up traveling. So travel was something that I enjoyed. Actually, sometimes Keku would say, Renu, I don't know how you do it. Or sometimes, why you do it? I said, to me, it's not a problem getting on a plane and coming. It doesn't, you know, bother me at all. And then, of course, then I had to be there. I mean, I can't say that exactly what I'm saying. Will ask me. I can't say कि मैं दिल्ली में भी रहूंगी. I will not travel, and yet, you know, you guys have to make sure that I get all the, you know, I'm equal.
So if you have aspirations, you have to give that little extra.
You have to give that little extra. And something has to give.
And something has to give.
Yeah. If you really think that you're going to be that superwoman, you have to prioritize. And any woman can only do, according to me, 3 things out of the 5. So those 3 can keep changing.
Absolutely. You spoke briefly about it, but do you carry any regrets? I know you said that regrets is a bad word, but anything at all?
I do sometimes feel that maybe I should have moved to Mumbai and it would have been different, and, you know, because it is the financial services capital. It is where, you know, most things happen. But otherwise, no regret, because I enjoyed the job so much. I enjoyed what we did. I enjoyed the people. I was it used to charge me up, and, you know, till that was happening. So regrets to hote hi hai. You have to get over with them.
Yeah, true. What's your advice for women aspirants across sectors, across?
So one thing I would always say is, don't try to be like a man. You're not a man. You have so much more things than a man, right? So you don't have to ape the men. That's why one of the things I always, you know, wear colors, not always necessarily be pant-suited because I want to look like them. You be who you are.
Original.
You bring so much to the table with what you think and what you do. The ability to be flexible, the ability to be to listen, the ability to empathize. You know, I think it's a wonderful thing. At the same time, you know, don't whine. You know, I always say there is a difference. You know, organizations do look at men and women differently. That will continue to happen. Get over it and get on with what you have to do the right way. I always used to tell the girls, don't come and whine in front of me, you know.
Yeah.
Take it in your stride, damn it. You know. So,
I know.
so I think
Love it.
so important. I think that I would say that is very important, that you're not less than anyone else, and don't let anybody make you feel that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank
It
you
was
so much. Such a
pleasure.
pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to yet another wonderful episode from VWP. It gives us enormous pleasure to create this content for you. If you enjoyed listening to the conversation, please hit the subscribe button and do let us know your favorite moments from the conversation. We would also love to hear if you have any guest recommendations for us. Of course, please don't miss our shorts section where we have our favorite moments compiled in bite-sized formats for you. So keep listening, keep growing, and do subscribe to the We Women Project. This is your host, signing off. Thank you.